Just listen to this man. He got some good news for you. Hey, everybody, gather near. The doctor's in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he can say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Ron, host of Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored, and Dr. Ron's Wellness Warriors. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to jump right in to a few things I want to tell you about. But I do want to first thank you for listening and for letting this podcast grow in spite of the fact that we don't really advertise on social media. It's all by word of mouth. And people are hearing us on Rumble and BitChute. Thank you very much. And right here on Podbean. Grateful listeners. I really appreciate it. And we're going to try and keep the content relevant so that the warriors, the wellness warriors, can survive what's coming down the pike. Because we are being threatened spiritually and physically here in this United States right now. So let's see if you can handle the truth.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Well, let's see if you can handle it. Because a lot of people are going to say it doesn't exist. Look, ladies and gentlemen, there is an article that came out January 30, 2024, entitled, How does U.S. life expectancy compare to other countries? Well, I can tell you it's not good. The U.S. has the lowest life expectancy among large, wealthy countries, while it far outspends its peers on health care. What have I told you the past couple of weeks? Between pharmaceutical drugs, 800 and some thousand deaths a year, medical malpractice and errors in medicine, and abortions, they're the top leading causes of death in the United States. All involve doctors. And what prompted me to bring this to your attention again is a new article that came out about Pfizer. Pfizer plans to sell drugs online to consumers, bypassing both your doctor and your pharmacy. Bad enough, it's the number one cause of death in the United States. Now Pfizer is developing direct-to-consumer platforms to sell its drugs, including Paxlovid, a migraine nasal spray. No wonder doctors, no one's signing up to become a doctor. There is a doctor crisis, ladies and gentlemen. No one wants to become a doctor anymore. The corporatocracy, the corporations that control the medical profession now and that controls our physicians. Most of our physicians are employed. Is there any reason people don't want to go into the medical profession? They really don't have a say in what to do. And they are being bribed. They got bribed to push COVID shots. They get bribed to vaccinate our children. And if you want to hear more about that next week, I'll talk about it. The pharmaceutical companies are involved in every stage of that. And so what is the outcome? Very low life expectancy compared to other countries. And don't let the COVID con, mess with these statistics, because most of the people that died from COVID were 85 years and older. Isn't it? Would you believe it? Among peer countries, the United States has the lowest life expectancy at birth for both men and women. Life expectancy gap between men and women is wider in the United States than any comparable country. And this disparity in life expectancy between the U.S. and peer countries persists even at older ages. The United States has the lowest life expectancy among large, wealthy countries, while it far outspends its peers on healthcare. Back in 1980, the United States and comparable countries had similar life expectancies and health spending, but the trends have diverged in the last few decades. So if you want the statistics for these statements and you want to see the graphs, I would direct you to Health and Well-Being. And the title is How Does U.S. Life Expectancy Compare to Other Countries? January 30th, 2024. But with my previous podcast, you have the background for it. And now with Pfizer lobbying to have bypass the doctor and the pharmacist. Wow, most people take too much medication anyway. I think the United States spends around $11,000 some dollars on healthcare. And we have that's per person. Other countries spend between 3 and 8,000, but we have the worst worst outcomes. And the life expectancy gap between women and men only dropped 5.4 years. Only dropped. Other countries, it dropped less. It is discouraging, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I've been telling you, you have to be the CEO of your own body. You must take control, ask questions, and don't take anything for granted. If a test is ordered, ask them if it's really necessary and what are the side effects. The United States has the highest per person healthcare spending, reaching $12,555. So I was a little bit off. That was a 2022 statistics. From data from the National Health Expenditure. However, this higher spending, as we have talked about just now, on healthcare in the United States does not translate into longer lifespans. And we substantially outspend our peers. Okay, so you get the idea. You have to be in control and you have to do things that matter. So what is the largest organ of our body? It is the skin. It is the skin. And sunscreens. Can't talk about summer without talking about sunscreens that promise protection from harmful UV rays. They've sort of become a staple in people's beach bags and skincare routine, but lately we're hearing about concerns of safety of these sunscreens. These claims I'm going to be telling you about, claims about these products that we rely on to shield us from skin damage might actually be causing cancer. It's worrisome, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll explore that a little bit. We'll soak up some knowledge because it's important that you know it. So there's so much information. I'm just going to summarize it here today. And you can always, check it out. Do a search. The skin, we forget how much it can absorb. It's a large organ, and it absorbs chemicals. And I've talked about the endocrine disruptors in personal care products and perfumes and fragrances. It's well documented. The skin can absorb a lot. So a few years ago, the FDA turned its attention to the chemicals in sunscreens. Because why? They are being absorbed through the skin, and they result in systemic exposure that far exceeds any guidelines that the FDA has out there. So they put out rules, and they updated these rules in 2019 for sunscreens. They determined which products were active ingredients that should be tested for systemic absorption and maximal thresholds. What is interesting is the 2020 study assessed 6 of 12 active ingredients that everybody questions, especially the FDA, and they took participants, 48 of them. They stayed at a clinic out of the sunlight for 7 days, and then they were put into groups to test 4 different sunscreen products: a lotion, an aerosol spray, a non-aerosol spray, and a pump spray. They all contain avobenzone and at least 2 other active ingredients. So you can see these when you read the ingredients of your sunscreen. 23 hours after a single application on day 1, all active ingredients measured were at the threshold of what was considered safe. They remained at above these levels for days after the final application in the majority of the participants. On day 7, a week afterwards, avobenzone, octisalate, octinoxate, and others still had high levels. In addition, skin samples, which they did where they put tape on the skin and pulled it off and then tested this tape, showed that all the chemicals were still present in the skin at day 7, despite daily showers taken in the morning, after blood sampling, and before the first sunscreen application while at the clinic. So these chemicals can cause cancer. They are endocrine disruptors. They can act like estrogen. They can cause developmental problems, environmental problems, and as we've talked about, reproductive problems by decreasing sperm production. So, what do you give up when you put these on? For this study, 2 sunscreen ingredients, zinc oxide and titanium oxide, are generally regarded as safe. That's the GRASE. Generally regarded as safe and effective. So, you think you're doing good for you and your family by putting these sunscreens on, but you may not be. So this paper recommended these generally safe ingredients, titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, for your protection. There's no doubt that skin cancer is the most common type of cancer in the United States. And it seems that even the weathermen down here in Florida are obsessed with telling people to avoid the sun and apply copious amounts of sunscreen to prevent skin cancer. But there are the study I talked about and other studies that show that sunscreens could be doing much more harm than good. They block the vitamin D production, and vitamin D production is essential in our health, and it's essential for cancer prevention, and it's essential for viral immunity. Many major brands of sunscreen contain toxic chemicals, which are absorbed through the largest organ of the body, which is the skin. They enter the bloodstream and circulate through our bodies. The cancer-causing chemicals include octyl methyloxygenate, OMC, titanium dioxide, oxybenzone, derivatives of vitamin A such as retinol and retinol palmitate. We have to be careful because the best way to absorb vitamin D is to get it naturally from the sun without sunscreen, which blocks UVB rays. But you know what? You only need 15 to 30 minutes of direct sunlight. Unless you have a darker skin, then you'll need more. We have to find other ways of blocking the sun unless you're using titanium oxide. So you think it's easy, huh? And I couldn't find the article, but we did a program with Dr. Smith about a year and a half ago. We talked about these spray-on sunscreens, and the propellant in those can be absorbed into our lungs, and that doesn't do really well with our lung tissues. So is sunscreen a cause of cancer? Well, dermatologists and a lot of medical professionals blame the sun for the increase in skin cancer because it's the largest source of ultraviolet radiation. However, there are other doctors and leading health experts that are contradicting this dogma. And they're saying that lifestyle choices and diet play a far more important role than sun exposure when it comes to getting cancers. In fact, Brian Peskin thinks it's an inside job. It's because we have adulterated oils in our system. And Dr. Bernard Ackerman, a founding father of dermatopathology, concluded that evidence that the sun causes skin cancer is inconsistent and inconclusive. While some studies, he says, quote, while some studies do show a small association, he says, others show none. Another leading authority, Dr. Leonard Caldwell, asserts that chemicals in sunscreen cause most skin cancers and not the sun. Now, this is an older study, but 2004 in The Lancet, which used to be a great journal. That study showed that indoor workers were twice as likely to get skin cancer as those who spent more time in the sun. And maybe with not only the chemicals, but because they block vitamin D, these low levels of vitamin D have their own health problems, including cancer. So I hope I'm giving you something to think about. It's not automatic to put sunscreen on. These sunscreen, your pores get big when you get in the sun, your skin, they open up. And these chemicals bake into the skin and get absorbed. You talk about toxins, they can really overtax your liver. And there may be other questionable chemicals that haven't been tested or made it to journals. There's Dr. Andreas Moritz. He said, quote, sunscreen is the leading cause of skin cancer. So if you want to go out in the sun, do it slowly, 15 to 30 minutes a day. Darker skinned individuals, we need more. Start slowly. If required to be in the sun for long periods of time, wear a hat and extra clothing to protect your skin from burning instead of using a sunscreen. There was a study in Sweden, 2014, was published in the Journal of Internal Medicine. They followed 30,000 women for 20 years, and they concluded that women who avoid the sun are at an increased risk. Now, I should really have a drum roll. at our increased risk for skin melanomas and are twice as likely to die from any type of cancer compared to those with high sun exposure. Woo! You believe what I just said? 30,000 women followed for 20 years concluded that women who avoid the sun are at increased risk for skin melanomas and twice as likely to die from cancer compared to those with high sun exposure. Wow. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about EWG, Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. They have a lot of information on their site. They have a list of what sunscreens are safe. It's free. It's online. You can check the toxicity level of skincare products, including sunscreen. And guess which product is on EWG's list number 1? It is zinc oxide, because it provides great protection from the UVA rays, better than sunscreen chemicals approved in the United States. Guess what? Natural ingredients such as coconut oil and shea butter are safe in sunscreen and can help nourish and protect the skin. Don't forget, everything starts with a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle. So we have to not forget to eat foods that are rich in antioxidants, including berries, apples, beans, and dark leafy greens, to name a few. And healthy fats, not the polyunsaturated fats in processed and ultra-processed foods. You know, you've heard about Astaxanthin, a super antioxidant. Astaxanthin, found in different seafoods: wild sockeye, salmon, shrimp, lobster, and red trout. It's a natural internal sunscreen for the body, as it's been called. And of course, it goes without saying, smoking and too much sugar and junk foods, not good. So we have a great country, but we have the lowest life expectancy and spend the most money than other developed countries. One of the top causes of death in the United States are pharmaceutical products, doctors, the use of antidepressants that cause suicides, and abortions. Then we have, heart disease and cancer. We can do something about it if we change our lifestyle and habits. EWG also has a great guide for pesticides in produce. See what they're really putting on that food you're eating. And gosh, I just see people here where I live drinking out of plastic bottles. And I've talked to you about it before. Hundreds of thousands of nanoplastics getting into our system from a bottle of water. Yeah, they're finding nanoplastics in arteries, in veins, in organs, even in brains. Can't be good, can it? Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, 882,000 annual U.S. deaths linked to pharmaceuticals. Please be careful. And they're getting expensive, too. So, this is Dr. Ron, host of Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored, and bringing the latest news to the wellness warriors. Body, mind, and spirit. You have a choice when you wake up to be happy or not. And believe it or not, the law of attraction really works. And I just thought of something that really can bring it home to you. If you take a paper clip and a magnet, you can feel them pulling together, but you can't see what's pulling it, right? And eventually the paper clip will click to the magnet. There's no space. There's no empty space in space. So positive affirmations, thinking positive can bring positive results. Let's try and work on that. Let's try and be as healthy as we can. Let's try and avoid the healthcare system if possible. We are the best, the absolute best at trauma. We don't do well with chronic diseases. A cardiologist who did not know that hypothyroidism causes the cholesterol to increase. Doctors in emergency rooms and urgent care centers giving Levaquin for urinary tract infections, Levaquin causing tendon ruptures, abdominal aneurysms that can burst. And these are warnings put there in the package insert. Be careful when you take a prescription drug, especially antibiotics. You have to ask, do I really need an antibiotic, or is this a virus? Is this the safest one I can take? What are the side effects? What other drugs does it react with? You know, sometimes doctors don't know. It's not even in the computer. It's got to be, you find out if it has a reaction after you use it. Isn't that something? Okay. I wish everybody a great week. Keep the faith. Challenge everything. And be a warrior. We'll see you next time. Remember, we're on most platforms that carry podcasts, plus we're also on X, LinkedIn, Rumble, BitChute. The name of the podcast is Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Dr. Ron's finished for today. I hope you got some good wisdom for what the man had to say. If it's all about good health, he's the man you got to see. He has a lot more answers for you. So tune in next week when the doctor is in the house. Or when the doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house.